7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, folks, welcome to the program. It's October the 3rd.
Duncan Garner, live.
You are with the Editor-in-Chief live with Esther's Oil, your multi-ingredient omega-3 healthy ageing supplement backed by thousands of satisfied customers. 6 supplements, 1 capsule. It supports joint, heart and brain health. Takers directed, read the label about health. Auckland, good evening, everybody. I'm Duncan Garner. Get involved. Leave a message, comment throughout the show, of course. Tonight, Labour's Finance Spokesperson Barbara Edmonds, an impressive new MP who today fronted up to New Zealand business leaders alongside the Finance Minister. And Nicola Willis reached out to her and her party to work together on the future of national superannuation. But is it dead before it gets underway? We'll have a chat to Barbara about that also. Ask what else does she stand for and why is she so worried that so many New Zealanders are leaving our shores and how would she stop it? She's with me next. And then David Seymour on charter schools. When will they open and what does he make of this idea from the unions to have queer counsellors in all the colleges around the country? So we'll look at that. And right now we're joined by Barbara Edmonds. She's new to politics. Something tells me she has the background to cope. 8 children, 2 degrees and a career. It's one hell of a balancing act. I watched this morning during her performance in the Herald Mood of the boardroom, and I thought she was more than composed and assured and sent the right signals. Let's be fair, a Labour MP in front of a business audience is no one's idea of fun right now, is it, Barbara? Good evening to you.
Tala Falava, yeah, I survived in one piece.
What was it like for you? I mean, 8 kids and 2 degrees. I mean, nothing really challenges you, does it?
Oh, lots of challenges each day. And I kind of, when it is challenging, like stuff like this, Fran O'Sullivan told me sort of a few days after I became the finance spokesperson, I've got to do this mood of the boardroom. Oh, man, the nerves started, and that's me naturally. But over the last couple of weeks, I've just relaxed into it. And then today I was just like, I just got to have fun. Yeah,
I thought you handled it well because, I mean, it is into the lion's den, isn't it? Recently in government, Labour Party, Labour finance spokesperson, Labour MP, in front of CEOs. And, they love the fact that there's a national government. How did you find people reacted to you?
No, really good actually. And I've found that over the last 7 months, sort of going around the traps, chatting to business CEs, really engaging and really keen to talk, learn more about me, what I stand for, what Labour's looking at. And, this is kind of the time, politics is all about timing. So this is kind of the time for Labour to sort of sit there, listen, restock and redevelop policy. Because
you need to reset the whole party, really, don't you? After the election loss, it's your job as finance spokesperson to lead a lot of the policy debate.
Yeah, and a lot of the policy comes back through the finance spokesperson because you got to basically set up the fiscal plan and make sure all the numbers add up.
Yeah, well, so let me take you back. So when you first started, was suggested to go and stand for politics, you got 8 children. How old are your kids?
Between the ages of 11 and 20.
Yeah,
busy? One after the other. Hey? No twins.
No twins. You had 8 kids, but in 9 years.
Yeah, so if you put my you put my pregnancies back to back, it's 6 years in total.
Oh my goodness!
I was pregnant for 6 years.
You guys get the dad a TV.
No, we lost the TV remote at number 7. We only meant to have 7.
Okay, so well, there we go. That's always the case with all of us. So, nothing really probably phases you now. But why did you go into politics?
It was really, I'd been doing lots of stuff in the community in Porirua where I live. I was the lawyer for our rugby club, Norths United. Just want to make sure you know that.
Yep. How's Auries?
Norths is okay.
Yeah.
So been doing lots of that stuff on school boards, helping out community things. And I also worked in the Beehive as an advisor to 2 National Party ministers. Yeah. So, kind of different place.
You worked for Judith Collins and Michael
Woodhouse. For Woody. So
how was that?
Yeah, they were both great, honestly. And Judith was quite an amazing person to work for as a woman.
Yes.
If you met her expectations, she would back you.
Yeah.
So I learnt a lot of things from both those ministers. Went over to Labour, looked after Nashi.
You're in the wrong party.
No, I looked after Nashi. And then for me, Labour just reflected a lot of the values, a lot of the things. I was a child who was brought up on the benefit.
Yep.
Through lots of Labour policies, my dad managed to get us through, and I became a tax lawyer. That's the story you want for all our kids, right? No matter what they're born into.
Well, so, come from the bottom and, get up to the top there. So, we're looking at that. You've had an approach today from the government that said, hey, why don't we work on New Zealand superannuation together?
Yeah, and I said yes at the time, and I was quite surprised that they offered that. It's really unusual for the government to offer that. Happy to have that, sit down and have that conversation because it's not just about super, it's that massive price tag that's going to come.
Well, it's $23 billion, isn't it?
Well, by 2060, super's going to be 7% of our GDP.
What is it now? About 4%?
Yeah, and so the reason why I say 2060, that's when our kids, the next generation, are going to retire.
Yeah.
So you've got to start thinking now.
Do you think it's unaffordable?
Big challenges.
Do you think it's unaffordable?
I think if we keep going and we don't have some structural reform, it will be unaffordable.
Okay, what structural reform are you looking at then?
Structural reform is, so you look at productivity, how you increase productivity. when people talk about productivity, I think about it as jobs.
Yeah.
Basically keeping businesses growing, making sure that people earn good wages and people stay employed.
But look at what the Secretary for Treasury said last week in a speech. Our long-term growth and outlook doesn't look good.
Yeah, which is why you need
flat.
structural reform.
That's right. So reforming they want to put the age up.
Yeah, and that's their policy, but it's not the Labor policy at the moment. So the government wants
At the moment, though, would you look at it?
The government wants to sit down with us. We're going through that process. We would have a look at a whole lot of things, but it's not currently a discussion we're having around increasing the age of super. But also, KiwiSaver is a big part of this, right? Labor brought in KiwiSaver, Sir Michael Cullen. The whole point was to make retirement affordable for people. So there's lots of different levers you need to look at, and I think you've got to have that proper conversation looking at all the different pieces.
Well, there's the Cullen Fund too. There's the New Zealand
the Super Fund.
Yeah,
Yep.
so
It's outperforming where it should be. It's done really well, but in the same way, they're probably going to do their distributions at some point in the near future.
But that was only really set up though to fund 25% of New Zealand, the cost of future cost.
Yeah.
So, are you open to a discussion about the age or not?
Well, I'm open to having a discussion about super. I am guided by what our party wants as well, and currently our position is we don't want to raise the age of super. And the reason why I say that is I'm a Pacific person. Māori and Pacific people from migrant communities, they need to retire earlier, and because a lot of them are in manual jobs, and also people that do work manual jobs have retire earlier. And the other thing is we have a shorter lifespan. Those are just the facts, on the part.
Yeah, well, men have a shorter lifespan than women, so do you pay it earlier to men? Because that's what the stats show.
And again, so many different ways you can slice it and cut it and look at it, and you got to look at it all together.
But New Zealanders need both the big parties to agree on some things. We expect you to oppose each other on most things. We're used to that.
Yeah,
but on some of these big things, infrastructure as well. I mean, there's just far too much cost involved in swapping and changing these policies.
Flip-flops.
It's just so expensive. We need you guys to work together sometimes.
Well, so I have.
Yeah.
I had a meeting with Chris Bishop last week because I wrote to him earlier in the year, and I said we need to have a chat about infrastructure. The sector and the country's telling us, get your heads together and figure this out.
Yeah. And what do you say?
Yes, so we're having that discussion. We had one last week. A lot of it is supportive of the Infrastructure Commission, which is kind of this independent agency that will then prioritise the different types of projects.
Yeah.
I said to him where the politics really hits the fan is around the criteria of how they select those projects. So we can agree that. That'll take out a lot of the heat from it, and then we just fight about how much we're going to put funding into infrastructure.
Yeah, you guys could fight about it behind closed doors and that one, but to agree on projects would be a good thing, wouldn't it? Because if we agreed on a second harbour crossing, then go for it.
Ferries.
Yep.
Dunedin Hospital.
Well, look at the ferries. I mean,
housing,
that's cost $500 million
hospitals,
just to
schools.
I know.
So all of those programs have been put on hold while the government makes up its mind what to do. At the same time, we have 8,000 less construction jobs, and guess where they're all going?
Australia.
That's the one.
And you said this morning that you're concerned about
55,800
people going to Australia. Now, you may not notice it in New Zealand because we've had such a massive influx. So there's still a gain.
So this is net migration flow.
I know.
So 55,800.
I know. So that's Eden Park, fully chocker on World Cup final
fully
night
chocker.
of skilled New Zealanders. Now we know who they are because they're skilled and they're workers, and we've lost them. You said you're worried. How do you reverse it?
Yeah. So again, it goes back to that productivity and growth discussion, right? How do you grow the economy? How do you make sure there are jobs there so that they stay employed, and jobs that they want to stay employed in because they're getting paid well? So you got all the different employment rights that they want to look at. You got to make sure that you incentivize business to be able to grow.
How do you do that?
So again, with what the CEs are telling me, and also what you see through some of the reports by both Treasury and MB, it is around innovation for small businesses. It's making them tech enabled. You get a productivity uplift through that because greater efficiency, AI, education, skills, and investment in capital that is machinery and types of tools.
And they need capital. If you go around the businesses, they come to me and I go to them as well. They need money.
Yeah,
they
access
don't
to
have capital. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially for us mates.
So what can you do about that? What can government do? Like hand out cash?
Well, that's one way you can do it, but then you possibly get into inflationary pressures, because have a look at COVID. That's what we did in order to keep people alive and connected to their jobs was the COVID wage subsidy. The COVID wage subsidy rate.
Printing money.
So there's different ways you can do it, but you do have to be, you do have to watch out for those inflationary pressures. You do need to look at whether you can afford to or not, but sometimes it's basic as what I heard today from the Auckland Chamber, is just government actually telling people where these tools are, because if you want to be an exporter, you've got NZTE, you've got MPI, you've got all these different government agencies that got the information there for you. People just don't know that they're there.
And I wonder if the story's got out there enough, because the people that are leaving, they started to leave before National got into office, but they continued to leave when National took office. And if you look at the numbers, actually more so, once Luxon took office, for a few months after that, they keep going. Now,
It's a record.
Record numbers, and I've tracked the immigration stuff really closely. And so they changed the government, didn't change anything. In fact, it actually made it worse.
Yes.
So,
can you tell them that?
Yeah, I'd have told them that, yeah. But Luxon may come on. So what do we say? What do we do about it? I know you talk about productivity, but that seems like such a woofly word to people. They don't know what it means.
Which is why I said it's jobs and work, and basically making sure that government has a role when there's an economic downturn like this to smooth those troughs. Hence why it's so important to keep that infrastructure sector going, the government infrastructure sector going. But by them putting a handbrake on, that has ripple effects throughout the economy.
6,500 jobs, mainly in Wellington, has screwed the town.
Well, that's public sector, but this is construction sector. 8,000 less construction jobs. And guess what? They're skilled workers. They're the ones that are tradies, that can build things, that can do the concreting, that can engineers.
Well, I've got a mate. He had 40 builders on his site. 40. Guess how many he's got now?
Be less than a handful of that.
If that, he's out of business.
Yeah.
He's looking for a job. He had 40 builders 2 years ago.
And unfortunately, you're seeing liquidations go up as well.
Yeah, so you say
so
jobs.
So government needs to smooth that trough. So when the market is failing, the government intervenes, and that's by keeping those projects going. But because they've stopped, that's what's happened.
So you're saying the government hasn't done enough in terms of funding some of these projects to keep them alive?
Well, there's funding there. And the thing is, you got to think about funding for a big project, for example, Dunedin Hospital, whether it's 1.8 billion or what the National Party said is 3 billion. That's say it's a maximum 3 billion. That's a 30, 50-year cost. You know, you look at it as a business person, you use debt because you know it's going to basically give you an investment in the long run. Yeah.
But it's still a $1.2 billion blowout as well, if you want to look at it the other way.
But that's if that's true, because when you read the actual Rust review, if you actually read the review, it's 72 pages, it's online, that's not what it says.
Yeah. So do you think they've made up the $3 billion figure?
It's a manufactured crisis. Yeah, you know, and I'm sorry to say this is a manufacturing crisis all the way. The other one is the heated tobacco one. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So if you look at that, then what would you do right now in government? If you were in government, knowing that these issues are major, what would you do? What would be your recipe?
You have to top it up. You have to top it up on debt.
Right.
And, you know, and that's part of it. But if you're going to top up with debt, you've got to make sure you have those revenue measures to meet the payments. It's just like
So you'd borrow more.
For capital investment,
Yeah. Which is how we do it anyway with houses.
It's how business does it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you don't think they're using the balance sheet properly?
Well, they're using the balance sheet because they want to get to a fiscal surplus, which I think is actually in 2027-28, that financial year.
Too soon?
I actually think it's that's not true.
Does it matter?
Well,
does the surplus matter?
Well, put it to you this way. Great if you pay off your mortgage, but not great if your kids are starving and they're sick.
Yeah, and that's what we realised through COVID, right?
Yeah.
Debt no longer mattered. You had to stay alive. And I look at it now and I think, well, use the balance sheet.
Yes, that's what a business would do.
Would you, in Labour, have got rid of 6,500 public servants because you guys actually were employing them right up until you left office?
No, so we started to do a fiscal savings program as well, 2%, and we thought that 2% was the right amount because it didn't cut into the bone. It meant that at the time it was through vacancies we managed to save that money. That was 500 million that Nicola Willis then used as part of her 1.5 billion. So for us, we would have had to relook at everything. We would have had to reprioritise probably some things, but we wouldn't have promised tax cuts, which cost 10 billion just for the income tax cuts, but with a 12 billion borrowing.
So we went from 47,000 public servants to 62 in your time in office.
Yeah, and from 2017,
Did we get better services?
Well, again, we had COVID, right? Guess who helped us through the COVID? It wasn't just the businesses, it was also the public service.
Yeah. Did we get better services?
I think we probably had lost some parts there, particularly in access to healthcare. And what I mean by saying that we lost some parts there is that basically it was so undated what was happening with COVID. We had to basically shift the healthcare services to deal with that. And I think, most people probably look at it and say, well, Labor didn't improve things. But we were also dealing with the biggest pandemic at the time.
Who's the politician you most admire on the other side?
Other side? Sole.
That's a shit question, isn't it?
Yeah. Sole means bro in Samoan.
Yeah. So who's that?
I don't know if I admire. I would say respect. I have Winston Peters. I respect his longevity. in the case of everything that he's done. He's a very good foreign affairs minister.
Yep.
He's also been really open for our Pacific caucus to work with him on the Pacific region because we know it's important. There's a couple of other MPs who I've worked but have gotten along with really nicely. So Rima Nako, she's in Takanini.
Yep.
Yeah, I've gotten along really well with her. But it's hard to admire because this is why I said respect as opposed to admire. Because,
Well, there's Judith.
Well, some of the decisions they've made haven't been great. Judith's actually doing really well in the space area. Where I do admire Judith is her work in that space area because that is a potential area for us to grow, especially in our aerospace industry.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see some of the work that I'm going to put a plug in that we started,
Yes.
that I started as Economic Development Minister with our space strategy and seeing her carry that on.
Yes.
Because she's recognised it's an area where we can grow.
Capital gains tax. Your position?
Well, everybody's talking about it.
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
so
I'm
it's
listening
That's
intently.
the one thing that's not taxed. Capital gains. I mean, 130 countries in the world have a capital gains tax.
Yes, they do.
I had a house in Australia when I sold it. There was an 18% tax on it. I didn't notice it, right? It's
Yeah.
just part of the
It's
furniture.
part of the furniture.
And so you guys have tried to launch this a number of times. I was there at the stadium when Stuart Nash and David Parker, they all had their announcement years ago, showing my age.
Yep.
So you've tried it a number of times and it's flopped and failed and you haven't got it across the line. Are you having another go?
Well, we're having another go at progressive tax reform. What that actually looks like, our Labor Party hasn't landed on that yet. But, when I first became the finance spokesperson, the very first day, they asked me about the CGT.
Yeah.
And the reason why they asked me is I should have been a criminal lawyer, not a tax lawyer, because everybody asked me stuff about tax. And, the reason for me is why should a person who is a bus driver, security driver, or a cleaner, why should every dollar of their salary and wage be taxed? But somebody who disposes of a capital asset,
Mr. Luxon?
possibly.
Well, he got rid of two in the
Possibly
last.
not.
He got rid of two in the last year, and he's made a $500,000 gain on two properties. Now that's non-taxed income.
Yeah.
And he's not doing anything wrong here. This is the law.
This is the rules.
This is the rules. I'm not saying he's done anything wrong. He's just following it like we all do. But that's $500,000 of tax-free income.
Yeah, so you ask that cleaner and that security guard if they think that's fair?
And we know what the answer probably is.
Yeah.
What's that, Solly? So you clearly don't think it's fair then, the system?
I believe that it could be fairer. You got to have a broad. My view is you have a broad base, low rate, right? You keep tax rates low by having a really broad base by taxing a lot of things.
Yep.
The capital side is not taxed in New Zealand. We have a couple of different rules because I'm a tax lawyer. I know there's specific
you know
rules.
the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's other specific rules, but actually the majority of capital assets when they're disposed of, the gain on it. And remember, just the gain.
Yes, it's not the
And not
original
taxed.
asset.
No,
That's that
yeah,
right.
that's
You
right.
buy it for $700, you sell it for $900. There's $200,000, and that's where the tax comes on the $200,000.
So what I do welcome is there are people tell me in private, and now I'm starting to hear it more publicly.
In your personal opinion of a capital gains tax?
I can't say because I'm still the Labor finance spokesperson and our party's going through it. See, I think if I get $1 for every time somebody asks me this.
You wouldn't have to work. No, but I mean, it's pretty clear. You haven't argued against one here. You haven't argued against capital remaining tax-free.
Oh, there's lots of reasons why capital gains tax will be difficult as well, but at the same time, we're one of 3 OECD countries that doesn't have it.
I know. I mean,
and I think just have the conversation in New Zealand, have it constructively. I'm listening really intently.
yeah, look at the countries that don't have them. They're sort of almost banana republics in many ways, and so we're in there with them. All the tax working groups, all the different working groups over the last 10, 15 years have all said, there's your missing ingredient. It's not brain surgery, is it?
Yeah, and one of them, like the Rob McLeod review, which
Yeah.
is back in 2014, they said it's too difficult to put it in. But, again, you just got to make it workable.
Politically, it's a dog, isn't it? Politically, it's like saying
it's a
New Zealand
difficult-
super is going down. The
Yeah.
value of it's going down, the age is going up. It's like that.
But again, you got to flip the question, which is, what's the society we want to leave our kids? Do I want them to be able to have pension? Do I want them to be able to go see the doctor when they need to have a functioning tertiary hospital that they can attend, and then work backwards from that?
So with the tax review, do the super rich get taxed enough?
Super rich.
Yeah,
Which
uber
tax
rich.
review?
Well, if you're looking at tax, you're looking at broad-based taxes, right?
Oh, yeah, broad-based taxes.
Yeah, so the uber rich in New Zealand, they're very wealthy. Do they pay enough tax?
So David Parker's report that he did, the High Wealth Individuals report, showed that they paid a lower percentage of proportion of tax than a salary and wage earner.
Is that fair?
There's, again, a lot of people would say that it isn't.
What's one policy, if you were put into government today, what's one thing you'd like to achieve on that first day? If you could have a wand and say, right, this has changed,
Oh, bro, that's a big question.
what would it be? I've got one other awful question coming for you too, and then I'll let you go. You'll be free.
What is the one policy?
What's the one thing you could do if you could magic up something for New Zealand today? What would it be?
Honestly, okay, so if I think about what actually helped me and my husband when we were having our children get off the bones of our butts, it was working for families.
I've heard this before.
You know, that really helped lifted our well-being as a family. So I'd really like to see some work in that working for family space. I know Carmel's had a number of different things to look at it, but I'd like to be able to see that our families can be incentivised to work and incentivised to get ahead.
Because with working for families, and I know Michael Cullen, I think he designed that like KiwiSaver off the
KiwiSaver Super Fund.
A4 reef on the beach on over the summer, and he's left some legacy politics too. He's left some legacy items,
Absolutely.
in my view, and KiwiSaver. You know, I never saved before KiwiSaver came in. And now I've got quite a bit in there.
Which is good.
It's great.
Yeah.
I was a bad saver, but that thing made me save.
Yep.
Because it forces your employer to put in as well.
Put some money in and a little bit of government contribution.
Okay, so with working for families, would you extend it?
I think we need to look at it. But I think there are potential ways to look at working for families to help incentivise families to stay in work, or those, the parents to stay in work, and to help those families get ahead a bit.
Do you want to lead your party?
No.
Why not?
Well, I lead it in the fiscal space, right?
Yeah.
I lead it in the financial space. But I don't want the leadership. And again, I'm quite happy where I am. I mean, I came into politics.
They all say that.
I know, but genuinely, I came into politics because I wanted to help kids to be able to, for them to have the same opportunities as my kids.
Yes.
That's why I came in.
If the caucus said to you, no one else is standing, we want you to do this. I know it's a terrible question, but I've been there for a number of years and I've seen how all the different questions get asked, and this is the best way to do it. If they came to you and said, Barbara, there's no one else standing, we need you. Is this your hour of need? Remember Jacinda? She got the call as well. It's a different question, isn't it?
And I'd be like, hey, look over there.
Solly's not over there anymore.
But yeah, at this point in time, it's not in my trajectory that I can see myself doing. It's not in what I need to focus on right now. If the team needed me to step up, I need to have to consider it. It's not a decision just for me. I am a mother of 8 children.
Well, that says to me you could do it.
I know for you it says I could do it.
Well, if you've got 8 kids, you can do anything.
But again, it's not in my trajectory right
Okay,
now.
my last question, and I really appreciate your time today. It's been great to see you, meet you.
Good.
And, there's lots of good feedback here too. A lot of people who say, yeah, wow, Barbara, go hard. Barbara's got talent. Barbara's great. We love her. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
If you were suddenly, the Labour Party was run over by a bus and you had to jump onto another walker quickly, what party would you belong to?
Oh, damn. I'd be out of politics, man.
No, you've got to stay in there, apparently.
No, I'd be out. Honestly, I've been asked by almost every party except for the Green Party to stand for them, over my time that I was working in the Beehive. And I said no. And even when Chris Farfoy decided to leave, because I knew Chris from our community in Porirua.
Of course.
Yeah, so I knew him from our community. He's a great MP. Even when he asked me, I said no. But the thing is, why I stand for Labour is there are key points in my life.
Yeah.
The capitalisation of family scheme benefits, Walter Nash. That's what got my parents their first home.
Yeah, it's in your DNA.
When Mum died, the benefit is what helped my dad.
Yes.
Training incentive allowance is what helped pay for my dad to go become a social worker when I went to school.
Yes.
Working for families is what helped me and my husband.
Yeah, you can't forget it, right?
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
So see you later. I'll be out of Parliament, man.
Okay. Did National ask you to stand? I bet they did. Eh?
Some of the people, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say any leaders. No, definitely not any leaders.
No,
but at the lower levels they did. Yeah.
You didn't consider it seriously?
No.
No.
They were great people to work with.
Yeah.
And some parts of tax is actually quite neutral as to which party it is, which is why I could advise easily. But nah.
No, I think you'll go well. Thank you very much for your time. The last comment that came in, Barbara, your hearty ears. That's the term that the kids use now. Your hearty ears.
Slay.
I know. I've heard it all.
Thank
We've both got kids. Hey, thank you very much. Nice to see you, and go well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Duncan Garner, live.
Okay, folks, the feedback's coming in. Barbara, well done. The top 1% should be taxed more, is what Dave says. A land value tax would be the best of both wealth and capital gains tax. The rich can't run away because everywhere has wealth taxes, says Dave. Thanks, Barbara. Will Labor implement any of the IMF's recommendations? Barbara's got talent, is what you've said. And, I think you like her. I think you've been quite clear about that. 0800 863 293 is our number. 0800 863 293. Let's do 3 questions.
3 questions from the Editor-in-Chief.
Okay, so at number 1 today, this is interesting too. It seems that people do want better work stories, and maybe it's because bundles of people have been made redundant this year. But record numbers of trainee cops are signing up to be in the police force. More than 5,500 applications just this year have been made, more than double the usual numbers. So people want to be cops, or maybe they've lost their jobs. Maybe they got rid of public service, now they want to be cops. At number 2, so how many cops have left for Australia? Well, the records show 115 left to take up work in Australia. Better pay, better conditions, and they're not coming home. At number 3, in Otago right now, stay home. The advice from all the authorities is it's wet and flooding may occur. So the best advice, stay indoors. It's not pretty, and have a comfortable evening.
Duncan Garner, live.
Okay, David Seymour is bringing back charter schools, and some say the sooner the better. The unions say they won't work, but they feel threatened. What's the latest, and when do they kick off? David Seymour, the Minister, is with me now. David, g'day, nice to see you.
Hey, you too, Duncan.
Welcome. It's welcome back to your city, isn't it? Welcome back to Auckland, yeah. Charter schools, how's the progress?
Look, it couldn't be better. Last time round charter schools were introduced, it took 3 years to get any started. This time we've had 80 applicants about 6 or 8 months after we got into government, and I expect some of them will actually open for term 1 next year.
That's good. That's quick, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's going faster. But I also just think, for anyone who says this isn't needed, we've had 80 odd organisations or groups go through a pretty arduous form filling and conceiving and convincing process.
I've seen it, yeah.
and actually put together applications. And I think that speaks to the fact, and if you don't mind some maths, I mean, the education budget's a 20 billion. There's 60,000 kids born every year. So if you divide that, what that tells me is that there's basically 60,000 new people and $20 billion every year. That means our lifetime spend on education is about $330,000. Now, I just put it to people, if I said, here's a kid, here's 330 grand, can you get them over the line? I think most people would say, yeah, we given the time and the resource and the thought time, we think we could do that.
We're not though, are we?
But, well, I mean, let me give you another couple of numbers. I mean, you look at how many kids come out the other end with UE, university entrance. For the poorest kids, 30% make it, and for the kids in wealthier areas, 80% make it. And what that tells me is that our system works very well for kids who are probably going to do well anyway. It's not working well for kids who are failing. And that tells me that the net effect of spending 330 grand is almost nothing.
Well, and the other thing is if you lose them straight away as well. So the good ones have passed, got opportunities, and they're now in Australia because they've decided to, flow the coop, so they've gone. So we paid all that money to invest in them, and then you lose them. That's even worse.
Well, it's like one of those cooking programs where they say, now, here's one we prepared earlier. New Zealand has been, look, don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm ultimately proud to be a Kiwi, and I think our country is the greatest on earth, but we do some tremendous work with some fantastic teachers. In fact, just the other day I was at the celebration of CAMI. These young people, they built a company out of thin air, and they sold it for $300 million doing educational software. Yeah. What was interesting is one of the people at the celebration gave a speech, and he said, thank you to the New Zealand education system for preparing all the 120 odd people that work there that are able to do this. Now, there's no question that we do some amazing things. We just don't do it for everyone, which sort of defeats the purpose of a taxpayer-funded education.
Speaking to a reasonably high-profile principal from a very good Auckland school the other day, college, he said to me, as I walked away from him, he goes, oh, by the way, NCA, it's laughable. No one fails. It's far too easy. No one can be told to work harder, and everyone must smile and be happy and have a fun time at the end of it. It's got to change. How's that? I mean, that's abysmal sort of take on the New Zealand system.
Well, strangely, it's the thing that first got me interested in politics, because I was sitting in sixth form at Auckland Grammar, and I was watching John Morris, who was then the principal, have this huge public fight with Trevor Mallard. I've never stopped fighting him. And Trevor was introducing the NCEA. John Morris was publicly campaigning, articles in the Herald and all the rest saying, look, this thing won't work because what credits you sit will decide how easy it is to pass. And some schools will give you easier credits, and kids they don't think are going to do very well, they just won't sit the credits. Everything John said 25 years later came true. You've got a government that's trying to tighten it up, no question about that. And in fairness, it's one area where Chris Hipkins, I think, actually did the right thing. Not a lot, but he did the right thing and started to tighten up NCEA. But fundamentally, we've actually lost sight of the idea that kids can achieve real things and make a difference in their own life, and that I think is the core of our challenge.
And they get to the point where they get to, right, I've got enough credits to pass, and they stop. What sort of system is that? So that doesn't encourage any greatness. That encourages you to pass and stop.
Yeah, and look, there'll be two kinds of listeners, right? There'll be people who went through the system and think, what are you talking about? There'll be people like us that did School C and Sixth Form Cert and Bursary, who this is a mystery. I've sort of walked in both worlds, and my first encounter of the NCA, besides that experience of watching John Morris fight Trevor Mallard, was when I was at engineering school, I used to tutor maths to pay for things like going to Shadows. And
Shadows. How much was a beer?
Oh, back then, probably under $4.
Yeah, it was $3 when I was there.
Yeah, you're a little bit older than me, but inflation's one of the certainties in life. And what I found was that that the kids were actually more focused on how to work out how to game the system than learn the maths.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're asking me to help them, figure out how many credits. I said, look, I don't know anything about that. If you want to work out Sokotoa, I can help you with that. But not so much the NCA system. And that's when I realised that it really had done some damage.
It still continues to this day. So how will charter schools look? How different will they be? What do you expect to see? What can we see as parents and so forth?
Well, they're going to be massively different, and it's hard for me to say for the simple reason that the whole purpose is to ask people in the community, here's a framework, can you do it better? And the way I'd explain it to people is I'd say, you look at what Apple did with the App Store, it was ingenious. They said, here's some basic rules, but you can make any app you like so long as it fits with these rules. And as you go to the Apple App Store or the Android equivalent, most people will have done this, literally whatever you want, there's an app for that, because they tapped into the creativity of the world to solve their problems. They didn't have to do anything. They just set the rules of the game. And what we've done with charter schools is said, look, here are the basic rules. If you can get kids to show up, and there's going to be contracted standards for that, and they're going to be pretty tough, and if you can get kids to achieve, and there's going to be contracted standards for that, then we will give you the money that we would have already spent on the children.
Yep.
You can use it how you like. And the way people use it is just mind-blowing. I mean, I'll give you an example. A woman, Ronnie Raquel, who's a sort of force of nature woman, spent 20 years in Japan, came home to Hawke's Bay, was running a civil engineering practice, had a lot of young boys coming on as cadets, and often found they just weren't ready for the workforce. She said, look, if only I could get them to get to them 3 years earlier as 15-year-olds, I think I'd have a shot before they go off the rails. So she got a few people around. People didn't have a lot of choice with Ronnie. And she basically got a phone call from Oranga Tamariki about 6 weeks after she opened. She said, we've got a list of boys, all Maori boys, a list of boys they couldn't find. She said all of these kids have been attending school, and the people couldn't believe it. Yeah,
because they enjoyed what they were doing.
Well, and they gave them male role modelling in that case. But I'll just give you the example of, look, did they achieve the results? Yes, they did. Could I ever have predicted that a woman who spent half her life in Japan, returned to Hawke's Bay, ran a civil engineering firm, cared about the cadets that she was hiring, decided that she was going to, put the hard word on a few of the people she knew from her life that had education experience. So I'm starting a school and you will be part of it. Yeah. And then it would be a success, and it would get students that Oranga Tamariki couldn't find to be at school learning. Yeah. I never could have predicted any of that. Yeah. But it happened.
It's the same as a boxing academy in Naino. They went to the boxing academy, and the prerequisite was if you come here, you go to school.
Yep.
And so they did both.
Yep.
Astonishing.
There's so many options, so many creativity in our society, but we've got to create the App Store so people can start working on it and then hold them really accountable for the outcomes.
Do you consider that state schools have been an abject failure?
No, I mean, I went to one and I was, I got a great education. I ended up, getting an engineering degree, and then things went really wrong when I entered Parliament, obviously. But
look at you.
But besides becoming a politician, it's been a great success. And actually, we do. I mentioned that example of Cami. It works well, but there are, considering we spend $330,000 per kid on their lifetime, not every year, but on their lifetime. We are not getting what we pay for as taxpayers. Too many are falling through the cracks. So
what you've got there with how many schools we have? 30.
Yeah, well, the budget so far is set up to 50.
Yeah.
So let's just see how that goes. We've had, like I say, 80 applicants.
Have you got 50 good ones?
I don't think that we'll have 50 next year, and we may not have 50 the next year. But certainly we are, at this point it's going to be competitive to get enough good ones that can open in the first 2 years.
Okay, and so we'll see a different sort of schooling. Will you accept failure? What if some schools have students that fail? How will you cope with that?
Well, the contracts haven't been signed yet, but they're basically going to say that you've got to achieve a certain percentage of students achieving at a level, and it's got to be roughly higher than a similar state school would achieve. If they consistently don't meet their targets, we'll shut them down. And, people think that's an idle threat. Last time round, there was one school that was a failure up in Whangaruru, and we shut it down. And we'll do it again if we have to. Yeah,
so the budget is, what's the money you've put aside for that? 100
Well, they put 153 million aside, but a lot of that is for administrating, setting it up, and for some school property. But overwhelmingly, the money that goes into charter schools, if we have 50 schools, that's 153 million over 4 years, is not actually a lot of money for 50 schools.
Well, out of 20 billion, it's nothing.
No, so
what do you say the unions say? The unions say they're running saying it's a joke, it won't work, and we've tried this, and what are you doing? What are you wasting time for?
Well, I just point out yesterday the Post-Primary Teachers Association, or the Secondary School Union, had a meeting where they agreed that they're going to let their members work at charter schools. So, that they're very principled people, the teacher unions, but not when it comes to their own survival. I think they see that this is coming, there needs to be change, and even they begrudgingly are getting in on it.
Can I ask you, now you mentioned the PPTA, I had a look at their agenda, and they also want, and they use the word queer counsellors in all colleges to deal with this rise of the trans and gay people, that sort of thing. They've said that the queer counsellors must be queer themselves, because only they can deal with, and only they know what it's like to be gay. Your reaction? Have you heard this, or is this news to you?
I hadn't heard that part of it. I knew they had some remits like that at their
Yes. Oh, there's more.
AGM.
I can give you more. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, look. I mean, it's kind of, I tell you one thing that's kind of interesting, and this is actually something Brooke Van Velden, my deputy, said recently. She said, when she was at school, which wasn't that long ago in her case, a lot of what the education system was trying to tell you is it's okay to be you and you should be proud to be you. Now it's like you have to be a certain type of person or you're not the right type of person. And I think there's a huge amount of anxiety with young people. I think they're told that they have to conform, and if they'd be guilty for things that happened before they're born, and climate change is going to destroy them. And the idea that you can't understand a person of a different sexuality, so you have to be the same sexuality, to me sounds like just a continuation of this idea that we all have some sort of original sin, we're all guilty, and we can't understand each other, and it's offensive to be the wrong type of person, and no wonder they're anxious. I prefer Brooke's version of the world, where she says, look, the goal should be to reassure people that it's okay to be you, and actually it's okay to be different, and you should tolerate other people's differences.
Well, isn't it against the law to discriminate anyway? I mean, they're saying that you can only hire gay or queer, same thing, counsellors for these roles. I mean, you've got counsellors in these schools, haven't you?
Well,
it's an insult to them
try
too.
And be a bush lawyer, but I would say that for a Crown entity such as a state school board of trustees, to hire in a discriminatory way would be the Crown breaching the Bill of Rights, right to non-discrimination. So, look, you probably want to get a proper lawyer's advice, but that would be my starting point.
Yeah, it's not something that this government would be looking at, having queer counsellors.
I don't think that this government obviously will be very concerned about everyone being, proud to be themselves and find their own way in life and make a difference. And those are the values we have. Yeah. But we've got to get away from this discrimination, because it's actually causing more anxiety than it's curing.
David, I appreciate your time this evening. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll welcome you here, and thank you so much.
Duncan, Garner, live.
Okay, a lot of feedback coming in here. Come on, what about Destiny having a school? Would Destiny Church, could they have a school? But they support apartheid Israel. What are you saying to me? I don't want to pay for this. MB says I don't want to pay for this. I don't want to pay for these counsellors. Is that what you're telling me? Do they have standards for teachers in line with industry standards? Yes, they do. And you've said to me Brooke Van Velden should be the ACT leader. And then someone else said to me, no, she's thick. It's not very nice. How come you can't hear what they're saying, can you? I don't want to fund Destiny Church schools. Charter schools should be treated as private schools. No, they're charter schools, aren't they? Somewhere in the middle. Right. 0800 863 293. You can send me your feedback as well. We got much on TikTok? How's that looking, Isaac? We got you there? No, he's taken David out. He has to. Okay, right. Now I want to talk to you about the deal between Labor and Nationals. So Nationals, Nicola Willis has reached out to Labor and said, look, we've got some issues, let's solve them together. I don't know about you, but I wonder if it's fallen over already. This is over national superannuation, and I wonder if it's fallen over already. And this won't surprise voters because they just simply can't get on. It seems the polls apart on most things these days anyway, but we need the consensus between the two parties on some things. On superannuation, that'd be good. It's $23 billion every year. And on things like infrastructure, because we waste so much money. We waste far too much money trying something only for the next lot to come and turn it over. So we need consensus on superannuation, on big infrastructure projects, and we need the parties to somehow meet in the middle. We had the Super Accord in the 90s, if you remember that. They called it the Super Accord. All the parties got together, had lots of meetings, and it went nowhere. But imagine it on big things like hospitals and on things like other infrastructure projects like their Second Harbour Crossing, things like that. Compromise in life is crucial, and it seems in politics they don't get it. In life you have to compromise, you won't get ahead. All right, that's how we'll get on. But clearly, it can't be achieved just yet. But I would urge the parties to find some common ground and work on it in the public interest and for the public good. After all, when it all goes belly up, it costs us, doesn't it? Put petty politics to one side and show us you can do adult politics. It would surprise all of us, I think.
Duncan Garner, live.
Yeah, the feedback's still coming in. You've said to me that the Board of Trustees should have control of their education curriculum to fit the community needs. So that's giving them even more say. That'd be giving them even more say, wouldn't it? Tomorrow's schools, how's it worked here? We'll continue. I'm fascinated with education. I think we should continue the discussion. That is us, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live with Estes Oil. The premium New Zealand-made fish oil supplement backed by a study support joint heart and brain health. About Health have a $500 Pro Health Pack giveaway running in October with all orders going into the draw to win. Now, you can use the code Duncan for 10% off, and you get an extra entry in there as well. Abouthealth.co.nz. Take as directed. Read the label About Health Auckland. You can call 0800 999 309, and that takes you right through to their helpline and to the people that are waiting there for your orders and wanting to help you out and talk to you. It's a good product. I use it. It's good. Right, that's us. This will be available as a podcast on Rover shortly and wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for your feedback and support. I'm Duncan at rover.nz. Thank you to Isaac. Forester somewhere there. Trees in the forest when it falls, you don't know. So thank you. And Lockie, thank you, mate. We'll do it again tomorrow. Friday, final day of the week for us. And remember, life is no dress rehearsal. It's no curtain raiser. This is it. Get out there, own it, enjoy it, and get on with it. Have a great day. Take care, New Zealand.
Chief Live. Miss something on the live stream? Text Duncan to 3598 to listen back on the podcast. Want to get in touch? Call 0800 863 293.